Okay, let's get started. Fix. So we return to Liquid Sky today. And we're going to focus on the changes component because it has been neglected for far too long. Did this calculate these all as new items? It did, didn't it? So change type 0. Yeah. So let's go and look at this item. So the thing I'm going to focus on today is this piece over here. So the concept is that an integration event happens over here. So from each of the APIs, an integration event occurs. We don't worry about calculating what changed inside of the planning item. We worry about what changed inside of the changes component. Primary reason, repeating the same effort over and over again in these seems wasteful. Unless, so let me correct that a little bit. Unless I can figure out a good like adapter or a layer that will automatically attach to these, this is the next best thing in that I can add the individual objects being handled over here, process them. I don't want to slow these things down, right? So bogging these down with calculating what changed. Starting to wonder if that's really a problem. I've got this far enough. Do I need to hold to that design? So obviously, the individual items, they know what changed. We just made the change. So we could publish a list of differences out. That's not the difficult part. And honestly, inside of here, all this is doing is tracking another copy of the object. Differences to the comparison of the object before and after. But with a interceptor, I might be able to do some of that. Because this potentially is still valid. What I'm trying to figure out right this second is if you haven't seen this project before, by the way, this is Liquid Sky. This is the main project I work on the stream. If you have any questions, thoughts, opinions, you're more than welcome to share. This is not open source. this is being treated as if it's going to be a full product. I still need this piece later on. But do I need... So right now what's happening is when a integration event fires, the changes component picks up the fact that the integration event fired because it's listening to that piece. It then says, okay, well, what changed on your object? And then publishes a list of actual changes so that if anyone cares, they can be told about that. What I'm thinking is it might be possible to do this with an interceptor and entity framework, although it means adding in yet another interceptor on top of my DB context in here and publishing out what changed that way, like just queuing up a message for changes and publishing them to Kafka that way, so that these don't originate from in here, they originate from each of the systems. However, it means that if there's if there's information in here that I store that I don't want to share, that would publish those out without extra effort of kind of saying, okay, hide this field, hide this field. Whereas out here, I only calculate changes on fields that I have determined are public. So maybe we get this working and then review that. What I was thinking about is doing very much, and it's not really doing a great deal. It's just saying, okay, well, these don't count as changed, right? So you can't change these fields. The event source is going to change every time potentially. The event ID is going to change. The occurred on is going to change. The source user is going to change. But these are not enough. These are not fields that you track on the change on the event to worry about calculating the difference. So we get the last event. And if we've determined that we have a newer version, we just throw this out anyway and don't bother. And if we have changes, we publish it, and then we update the last event to be this one, and then we update it to say now we've got a new update. Morning, Dota. How you doing? So what does update existing actors? So what does my database look like for this, I think, is the problem. Changes, collections, planning items. You're up and running? Yeah, you're up and running. Okay. Well, that ain't good. What's the database look like? Changes, domain, entities, planning item, document. That is not storing what I think it's storing, I don't think. What database is this? MongoDB. Changes. What is that collection? So we get the process actor, we'll go to repository of planning items. Right. And then publish new actor. We add the planning item. We get the. So let's have a look at one of the planning items we have the ID for, identifier. So we're checking on spec. Let's rename that spec so we know what that is. Sealed. Well, 10 identifier and identifier. Okay, so we got that. So we want this object, this planning item. Okay, so we have initiatives arrows is the one that we've changed. Okay, so let's go. Let's run this. So I think we don't need Akka here. We can, if we can figure out an interceptor layer and some sort of smart way of dealing with this, we can publish this change out of the actual entity itself. We just need to come up with a standard layer. However, we just need to get if we get this workflow working, then I can review that. But I think these changes can publish from the integration events themselves from here, rather than be its own component, because then Akka's making this more difficult. Yes, it's dealing with the scaling, but these will also deal with their own scaling if I get them right. So it's not terrible. Hey Zons, how are you thinking about marketing this thing? In terms of its positioning or in terms of like actual marketing? um, so I'd be lying if I said I put a lot of thought into that because I really don't feel that it's a product yet. I do want to aim it at product teams before developers, but have developers on board because obviously the the focus is on allowing developers to get on with the job, right? Um, so I need to position it correctly. So it's not just, oh, it's just another Jira, it's just another Asana, or it's just another, Monday.com or whatever. Um, my goal, my hope is that I can get it developed enough. Oh, you got ads? Oh, I assume Monday.com. Um, the fact that they thought it was a link suggests it. He said Monday.com. Oh, they said Monday.com. I wonder what's left to make a product you'd be comfortable selling. Honestly, I want to get to the point of doing the notifications. I want to, I really, really want to get to this point where I think um, it's providing the vision that I actually initially had, right? I don't want to have a development team being asked questions about where are we. Now, the problem is I'm not aiming this at single developers, right? I'm aiming this at teams right out of the box. So it's not like I can go and say, oh, well, here's my product. You want to use it as a developer? Because the developers aren't the target audience. And that's going to be a challenge positioning it, right? And getting that out. I think it's good to at least start putting some thought to it. I have put a lot of thought to it in terms of the what do I want, where do I need it to be, um, um, I think a public release. My time window right now is June, July, for a first public release of the basic features. We need subscriptions in there. We need the backend to be able to at least support the basic concepts, so we have some control over accounts and we can actually disable accounts or whatever. Um, but um, I really do want to get some of those features in that are really product focused. Like, hey, by the way, this item, we need estimations in there. We need whether it be time or sizing. We need the ability to provide teams. Um, but those aren't major difficult features overall. It's just a bit of time to spend doing those things. Um, okay. I don't think charts need to be a part of release one. Um, I think that the ability to say, hey, by the way, this thing changed, or um, an item you're watching is potentially overdue, those sorts of things would be very quick sellers. I don't know. Right now, I'm contemplating how do I get a better UI UX experience? Like, how do I get, because it needs a more cohesive experience, right? From a visuals perspective. Um, Trying to find someone who wants to do that for relatively little money is not easy. Um, um, if if I felt that it was to the point where it could turn to be a product, like if I feel like it could be a product, but what I mean is if I feel like there's an actual um, you know, this which tenant this take me to. Yeah, test tenant. Um, yes, I would put money behind ads. Um, I wonder if a GoFundMe would make sense. Honest, for the time being, is just shades, basically a very professional, sleek. Yeah, I'm using Prime NG right now, um, but I want it to have a flow that's been at least reviewed because I think that can make or break an application in terms of its usability. Okay, so this planning item has been touched before. Um, yeah, let's remove those projects. Let's assign it to Jeffrey. Let's change the review date. Okay, so we know three things at least changed. So there's a lot of little things that need to be tightened up, and I think a UI UX person overseeing it would be good. Everyone I bring into the team, obviously, if it becomes a paid product, I am considering what does that mean, right? Because it's a contribution. Yeah, white space is major. What I'm looking for here is I need. Did I remove the breakpoint? Did I already publish a change? No. Why aren't you running? You did a planning item. Okay, so we're going to do it the old way. Topics, consumer groups, changes consumers, update offsets. 334. Yes, I'm just spamming that button because watch. Come on. There you go. Okay, so what I've done there is I just reset this one. So now I just need to reset the changes receivers. So receivers, changes pipeline is the actual enricher, which I still would need as a separate process. Okay, here we go. So planning item. So let's find out what this event looks like. The event has identifier A75B13 and tenant ID 9A7. So if we go over to here, we don't have that. Hold on, we don't have that planning item. Oh no, A75B13. Okay, so we have the planning item. So it should go to this one. Update existing. So yes, we load it again, but we load it again because this could be called out of sequence, right? So we need to validate it again, right? So update existing planning item. Oh, that didn't go well. Value cannot be null. That's why. Oh, that's a problem. Planning item is a document with planning item with last event on it. So is it just this? But it fails. Did it fail? It failed here, right? Um, um, planning item integration event. It's a document of planning item integration event. So it should have last event on it. That doesn't have last event on it at all, does it? Why doesn't that look anything like what it should do? So that should store it. So the idea here is what I'm storing is the tenant ID and the identifier with the last event. So when it stored it, it didn't store the last event. So let's go and wipe this out again. Drop this collection. Let's go and reset that topic again. Oh, 334. Okay, so now let's run this again. And we should get to the new one now. Yeah, it's kind of scary trying to, like, I'm obviously committed to building this platform, but I've got to switch from it's fun and I'm learning a lot to now it's a thing. And I know that when you make something a thing, once people start to have expectations of it, or they start to ask for changes to it, or they expect bug fixes, what I need to do is be prepared for that amount of time, or put in place some sort of expectation of, here's what it is. I will get bug fixes done in an amount of time, but being that I'm aiming it at teams, that's a little hard to do. So I've got to figure out what that looks like and all those little things. Okay, so we're getting there. That's fine. So there's a lot more to consider before I actually say, yeah, this is a live product. But I would be aiming for the summer to say, here's a version that I say is good and it's going to production. and you are able to use it, and I will not remove any data. I will back things up. You will retain your data. Okay, so that's firing twice. That hit that breakpoint twice, then that's not good. Well, that could be the second job. That's another challenge. Just gotta stop doing that. So if planning item is null, yeah, it got into that one, didn't it? So the way Akka works, Akka is as soon as the first actor is free, it processes the next message, and then it queues them into each thing, so it kind of trickles down. So the challenge, and that's why everyone checks to see if it exists, because it might not actually. Another process might have actually dealt with this one already. So I could get two updates for the same object. The first message comes in and says, "Okay, I need to do this," and then the second message is processed by the first actor, and that actor said, "Do they exist?" And it said, "No, I don't exist yet." So it kind of out of step. Okay, so this is going to store and then publish. So does this now have a record? Last event's missing. There's a serialization problem. Want that. So it stores these fields, but does not store this. That's a problem. Um, oh, builder.ignore. That's not right. Um, let's see what this does now. Okay, let's process that again. So I'm deliberately doing two because I think they're for the same object. So it should be good there. Well, the good news is it's consistently hitting this piece. Publish new at update existing at. I think that errored in a different way. Yeah, that errored. Cannot bind event source. That's why. So I made a fix to stop an error. Earlier versions definitely worked because I didn't just make this up. However, what I need to do is set a conversion of some form. So last event should be the field, but it should be backed and by last event body. So what we do is we go to here. We do builder.ignore. B goes to B dot last event. And builder that has let's see what that looks like. I don't think that's going to do what I want it to do, but let's find out. Oh, we're going to crash. The specified field when it cannot be found for property planning item last event. Yeah, that's not fine. Has field. Oh, we can do p.event body. Let's find out. That should give us the mapping. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make sure I store the JSON value, which is dealt with by last event. So when I set last event, it's JSON serialized event body, so it should be there. Nope. The type property type event body cannot be added to the type panel item because no property type was specified and there's no corresponding CLR property or field. Property must be specified. Property type must be specified. So let's try this one. Property has conversion. If you're someone, how you doing? And then V goes to. Problem is, I can't do that. Has conversion. That's the actual entity. That's the event. I am trying to figure out the right way of storing a serialized event into Mongo. So my changes piece, I'm trying to show that piece up. I'm just trying to figure out the right way of doing this, whether my design's bad or whether um, it's just a change in how MongoDB does what it does. So I have this document base type. Basically, as I store a planning item, as I store my planning item, all I store really is identifier and tenant identifier for this object. So I can pull this object back out and it has its event attached. This last event was working. It's just got this backing property, which I don't need to be a get set, but whatever. But this was working, but now all it does is store I had it set to ignore this field. Um, so the way this works right now is when I publish an integration event, because that integration event contains the fields that I want to be public, I calculate the changes outside. That way, this isn't bogging down the system. This can process at whatever speed it wants. There's no real, and I can scale this differently. And then don't bog down this system from doing what it needs to do. So there's no hold up to writing data to the database or whatever. Because from an interceptor's perspective, I think you have to do that. You have to do that before you write to the database. So to calculate that out, process a message, etc. That's why I avoid doing it there, so that I store the data as quickly as possible, because changes is not a primary concern. Also, the things that I make public, the actual integration event is what I calculate changes on. So now, when I receive that change, what I do is I store the last event that I had with it, because if I get messages out of sequence, if I get a message that's last updated is older than the one I've currently got, then I can ignore it, bail out. So I store an entity with a serialized version of its last event. Do I need... It needs to be JSON serialized because... Isn't that what Mongo does? I think it's the way that the event works. Yes, it is. It's the way the event works. It's the integration events are, they have, Mongo does not like dealing with primary constructors. So this planning item integration event has this, which has this, which has these mappings on the gets, so it doesn't like dealing with that. So Mongo can't deserialize that. And I'm not changing that at this point. That would take me weeks to figure out all the touch points for something that I only need it stored. So what I'm trying to do is come up with the best way of telling Mongo, by the way, read and write, because I want to say builder.property p.p. last event. Apex. Hello, how you doing? Stream's been going well. We have two projects, not two products. That'd be awesome. Two projects in flight. on Liquid Sky today. Builder dot ignore p goes to p dot last event. So we don't want to try and serialize that, but property event body has field f goes to f. That has field event body. Will you work? So yeah, for some reason, Mongo stopped serializing this. Either I changed the object enough, but because of the way it's working, it just silently errored. So I don't know when I broke it. But that's a big problem with working with a system like this as a solo developer, right? I can move one part and everything can break. The property event body cannot be added to the type planning item because no property type was specified. I see. How you doing, Apex? How's the game coming along? Don't think that did anything. No. I need to reset again. It's processed the events, that's the problem. It's coming along. I got back from a trip to Mexico on Friday. Nice. That's cool. Hey, Dan. Doing good. How about yourself? Come on. There you go. If you are interested in game development, Dan has an amazing looking game coming along. Highly recommend. No property type is specified and there's no corresponding CLI property or field to add a channel state property to the property. Property type must be specified. Yeah, I caught your stream the other day. Event body. So event body in here. Thank you, Online. Are you Apex? You looking to get back into the streaming game? Oh, because I don't have actual property because I'm last event body. This doesn't matter. Let's find out. And it's coffee time. Fun to don't have to work. Nice. Nice. Oh, look out for it. Currently struggling with effects. It's very hard. A lot of edge cases to consider and test. I'll have a whiter beard when I finish it. Yeah. Building software whether it be games or products, etc., is it's easy, but the bigger it gets, the more things you have to chase, and yeah. Specify for your last event body could not be found for property planning item. Last event body. Okay, now I'm confused. Okay, so I think I'm just setting these up wrong. So let's have a look at infrastructure configurations. Property identifier has field, so that's a public property. With a field. But I don't think that will work for this case. Because that would be property as field last event body. That's not the way that works. It's not a backing property. Tell you what, let's do this. Let's do this the simpler way. I'm trying to be too clever with it. That's hurting me. So let's do this. Let's do builder.ignore. P goes to P, the last event. Builder.property. P goes to P dot last event body has field last event. Let's see how that works. Not the end of the world if it reads correctly, because last event body is just the string representation of the last event, right? So it should be, this should work. Specify field last event could not be found for property planning item last event body. Oh, has column. That's what I've been going wrong on. Was that the problem all along? I hope not. I have to wait for this to happen, otherwise. Okay. So this might actually just kickstart changes into working the way I want it to, which would be awesome. So it's clearly, the problem is that I've not been storing the event body on there, so I can't compare anything, and it's been erroring out when it did receive a change. So nothing's happened to do anything else. Oh, that was promising. Okay. We got the planning item is not null. We added it. There we go. That's what we wanted to see. Identifier, last event body, tenant identifier. Okay, so with those there, what will happen is we go over here, we go to topics, we publish changes, right? So these are empty now because there's nothing actually changed. So what we do is we stop running that and we go and run full stack again. So what we can do now, because now those items exist. So planning item C4195 and planning item A75B1 exist in, so C, so sample item for Bob. That's bad because that's a different tenant. I should have seen that. Yes, different tenant. So C4195 is the one I want to look for. C4195 is initiative zeros. Okay, so if we change the initiative zeros planning item again, he says, making that sound simple. Oh, because we moved initiative zeros, didn't we? That moved to the end. Ugh. There's a bug in this table in terms of its data. Gotta look into that as well. Let's assign some new projects. Let's change the date back to March 6th. Let's change the initiative it's on and save that. Oh, there we go. Okay. That should have gone back up there somewhere. I suppose this is down here, isn't it? Yeah, because everything else is in the past. We need to move all the review dates. That's not a realistic scenario, right? You don't want those things lying out there for too long. Okay, so let's five that. This is update. Okay, so we should have an update for this planning item. Right. Oh, we got further. We have differences. Four differences. Okay. And now we set the last event equal to this event so that we can actually track that. So we need to validate that this event contained those initiatives and whatnot. Opening, show aggregate view, show opening value editor. Requirements, review date, we moved it to the 6th of March. Yeah, okay, so that worked. We stored the last event properly. That should now have triggered this topic to process. So there we go, there's our change. So now we determine that is an actual change. And then eventually changes detail should pick that up is what I'm looking for. Because changes detail is the one that's going to enrich that data. It's going to add username and stuff on there so that we can actually, so it gives you the ability to have that change detail standalone. So you don't need to pull in extra data. You don't need to query all that in the UI. It will give you everything you need, including who did the change with their contact. What that does make is for a mess in terms of GDPR, I suppose, because it does mean that lag one, it knows there's a change. So pipelines is the change. Receivers, changes receiver. Let's restart that. Oh, is it not running? Yeah, it's running. So yeah, so it does make it a bit of a challenge for GDPR, right? Because because your email address. I mean, you signed up for a system, so I think it's a bit different. But your email address is potentially published through many different channels, so it needs to if I was to clean it up, those would all need to be removed. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it picked up the change. It should calculate this as the difference. Yep, so it has got the process update. So now we can get in here and what I'm looking to do is verify this comes through here. If it works, it works, but I just need to make sure it doesn't collapse on itself. Okay, so we calculate that we need a planning item processor, right? So this is based upon the type, go and get me the actual thing that needs to do, and then go with those change details, go and enhance those things. So I'm just going to hit F10 over that because I don't really want to dig down into the depths of that, and that errored. You can tell it errored because it went from here right to the end. Need to wait for things. It's a problem. Changes processor baseline 20. So in enhance in the changes processor, go to implementation. With the planning item processor and assign user, associate projects. Need to wait for things. So the problem there is in the pipelines. We do not have the user. So how can we tell you more information if you don't have the information? This is going to be a common problem of doing distributed computing like this. It's going to be a common challenge. If you have a monolith, you have all the data available. You have, all the tables are there. You can just query a table. It's there. The user has to have been there to create this thing. In this process, data may come out of order. Now, in this case, the data is never going to be there because I have actually wiped out this collection to try and get the system up and running. Because I had so many issues with Mongo and EF Core. So the real fix here is to actually stop running. Well, the real fix is to hope that our ETL program was far enough along that I can run that. Did I have it far enough along that I can actually do what I hope here? Because what I need to do is pull a list of users out of Mongo and put them in oh, actually, we might have this. We might have this to do. Let's find out how far along we were. We actually do have this set up to run already. Let's run this and see what happens. Oh, boo, boo. Because projects isn't where I thought it was. Okay. Projects comes from isn't time management anymore. It's organization management. And that comes from data sources. Should be all the same. Okay. Okay, so do we have there you go. We have our projects. We have our user. User. That's a bit of a problem, isn't it? Why do you create a tenant? Did I make this per tenant? Oh, true. Run that once more. It probably inserted one record and then the second time bailed out on it, which is fine. It did projects and then let's see. Yeah, there we go. There's our users. There's our projects. I'm planning it. So if the target is not empty, it won't run it, right? So in that case, it ran it. So did I duplicate terrybd@bob.com? No. Okay. How lucky is that? That's the ETL pipeline that I was worried about. So the concept here is that I set up data sources, connections, right? And then in here, I just say, okay, where are you going from? Where are you going to? And from the source collection, it's up to the repository to tell you what the collection looks like. But from the source collection, it's going to go to this. So right now it's doing basic field to field. And they have to be the same type. Yeah. But that is working. Okay, so that's helped me along a lot. Let's go back here. That message will have processed on consumer notifications. LS notification, no, LS notifications, LS pipelines. Yeah, it did process. So let's change that back. Update offsets 275. Okay. Now let's run this one. Hi, important guy. How you doing? If you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing here, you're more than welcome to join in. I'm happy to talk about stuff in here. Okay, that's a new one. So anyway, that got processed. Change type created. Okay, change type updated. Okay. Not bad. Okay, so we get here. We have a user this time. Awesome. Okay. Let's see. Topics. One message. Come on. Why won't you show? It says there's one. It processed. So there is an outbox. Opening bio editor. No, that's that one. Pipelines is an outbox, right? Okay, so our ETL pipeline saved us there. That's pretty cool. I can probably write those others to test. But anyway, what do we have? So it enhanced the user detail. It processed the message. It didn't error. Well, I say it didn't error. Am I certain of that fact? Well, like it worked. Pipelines outbox Kafka message. There you go. Yeah, there you go. So you can see what it did. Can I format this? Uh, how much does it record? By anyway, okay. Um, just Studio Code. Useful for some things. Okay, here we go. So what it does is it enriches, so it knows the project, so it enriches the ID of the project, so it gives you the names. And initiative it doesn't have any idea about yet because we haven't included that. But then it also adds, your name and email on the source user. So now this detail can get processed into the view, and the view can store this and then display changes that way, so that the view doesn't have to do any of this calculation. Because I don't want to put that burden on the view component, right? It's not. I don't want to pull all this information and consolidate it in the view when I can process it, and it's not. It doesn't hurt the system to have this slightly out of step, right? You don't need to immediately know what changed about something in detail if it just changed. You can use the changes feed for that, which again is a little slower, but it's not slow enough that your system's bogged down. So oftentimes the desire of a monolith is that, like, well, I can know everything about the system, but then when it's running slow because there's a process running in the background, or there's a report running against it, or you've changed some indexes on a table to better support a report, but it's now costing you on the insert, so now everything's taking longer to create. You're kind of trying to make trade-offs. So no matter what system design you use, you're going to make trade-offs. It's just, what's better. So my focus is get you to the data you need quicker, get you the ability to complete what you're trying to do quicker, and the details of which can come after the fact. As long as they come, that, like, as long as the details are there, I need the resiliency there. Hey, Radar Patrick, how are you doing? So we made some changes there. Um, right now, I'm still on the development branch. We'll see if I feel this is worthy of branching based upon risks to the overall project later. But let's see if we can get some actual changes to flow through. Also, System up and running again. Let's go over here. That's interesting. March 3rd. I think I changed this to March. March 6th. Okay. Did I change it to 20? No, 2025. It's staying down there. Oh. He thinks there's something to do with the data underneath this that's causing a problem for me, but oh well. We're not going to panic about that a second. What we need to do is see that changes flow through. That's bugging me that the changes detail topic is it's got a record now. It had a 0 there before. 963 bytes does not seem reasonable, but let's make a change. We'll make it to initiative zeros again because that's in progress. Let's change that to the changes and we'll review it. Review it on the 11th. All right. So we should see a planning item change happen almost immediately. He says with confidence. There you go, 1 second. All right, so there's our planning item change. Oh, we don't want breakpoints. Breakpoints make things confusing at this stage. We have a change there. So we've published that change. Yeah. And there's our change there. Okay. There's our detail. Sweet. So now we've changed it. Associated projects. We cleared out the associated projects. I don't think we did. I don't think that's what happened, but okay. If you say so. I don't think it's firing on all cylinders. But it does know we picked up the review date change. It does know we changed the status. Last updated will always change. That's fine. Or it best do if last update doesn't change. But either way, that flow is now working again. Working in the loose version of that word. Now this is queue-based, so this is going to process a single Kafka message at once. Rather than using Akka for this one. Yeah. I feel like using Akka here might actually be more appropriate. It's just the time and energy to figure out what that mapping looks like, because with Akka, you're breaking all these little you can break all these little pieces up into individual processing and then kind of combine them back together, which does give you a nightmare of how do I put it? Debugging, because you don't know which pieces will being worked on in which message and which process is. Yeah, it's crazy. But that would be a way of trickle down this performance challenge of, okay, well, I'm calculating and pulling all this data and these changes. What do I do? So So what this does, what this particular piece does is it says, okay, well, I need these resolvers, right? So these if I get a change type of associated projects, then here's what I do. I go and get the before and after. Fetch the actual projects from the database. And I try and pull it. So hold on, maybe this was because the projects actually weren't there and it screwed up earlier on. Pipelines, collections, projects. That might be it. Next UI might be. Oh no, because change is there. So the way we do that is we go to organization management, look at projects. Yeah, that's all right. Hold on. They're the same identifier. I think I have something flipped somewhere, don't I? Oh, joy. I think I have the tenant identifier. See the tenant identifier there? What did I do then? I did that. Someone managed to get to the edit of the code. Oh, probably got. Yeah. I flipped them somewhere in the code. We have a bug. Okay, so let's do this. This is all good positive change to changes. There's no point in trying to branch this at this point. I might as well just get the changes in there. I'm the only one developing primarily in Liquid Sky. This doesn't hurt me. Changes was not serializing, deserializing event data. For which trigger an error. So basically, what was happening, the entire flow was working. The changes were being produced. It was just saying that the change was always new, and by doing that, the details was like, there's nothing to add here, right? It's fine. The details by default just says, yeah, we're good. Even though you could enrich the source user, there's just this, yeah. Right now, it doesn't do that. Okay, commit. Okay. So we need to first figure out why in organization management I have flipped, right? So when we post create project, we pass in tenant identifier, user identifier here, right? And we create a project and we set tenant identifier there. Right. But it's wrong in the table. It's wrong here. Now this doesn't fail because the identifier is not a primary key, right? If this was a primary key, it would have fallen flat over. But I don't use I use the primary key on the table as well. So this kind of protects that problem. So first we need to drop that collection there. Right. We clearly need to fix this data here. So we need to identify why it's doing that. Morning module. I think I see wrong there. That's the model. So did I mess around with it when I did the... Yeah. We need a buffer here. Need that ID. Okay. So this one should be this one. This one should be this one. Should be that one. Should be that one. Should be that one. Should be that one. That one. Should be that one. That's someone who wants to just get on with it and doesn't want to deal with the figuring it out. The reality is what you need to do is highlight what happens if you are not available or we haven't discussed it, you've gone off and planned it, but now it needs to be done. Yeah. So what the heck happens when you're not available? Because you get food poisoning or the proverbial bus manages to finally get you. Right? You're unreachable for the purpose of discussing the project item. What happens? You cannot do that. I mean, I know there's a balance of getting work done and talking about it and documenting it, but if your teammates don't understand what's going on, right? It's why this does have this concept of kind of source projects, pipelines, projects. Okay, so we should be able to run this again. This does have this concept of, tasking out the actual work. Okay. So it didn't change this data. This data was wrong to begin with. These now are identified. Sweet. Okay. So the problem was that this was the only one it knew, so that everything else got removed by default. That's an interesting side effect of that. This data being out of whack means that this could report weird changes. But that's why I'm building the ETL tool, to make sure that this isn't a development issue. We can keep an eye on that. So again, if you are new to the stream, what I'm working on is a project management and planning tool for handling software development process. Trying to focus on requirements gathering and getting product teams to actually build a list of what they want to happen before software developers need to worry about it. From there, being able to have developers go off and figure out the actual technical implementation and track the technical implementation without worrying about how it rolls up to the product management team, just knowing that it's assigned to individual things. So requirements drive these tasks. As tasks progress, the concept is that, or the idea is that the product management team can see that the task, that the requirement is changing, that things are being done against that requirement, and they can see where the focus is and call those things out without actually worrying about what the technology is doing or which pieces are being handled where. So if there's a refactoring necessary, um, that can still be tracked as a separate task. But if there's, if it's relevant to the job at hand, then it can be attached to a project and tracked. The idea will be that the developers size and point or estimate the tasks, not the requirements. So a single requirement is then so a requirement is probably the closest thing to a story, right? In terms of um, in terms of the um, sorry, I just had a thought mid sentence there. So a requirement is probably the closest thing to a story in terms of the um, comparison with things like Jira. However, a requirement is meant to kind of dictate the reason why a developer's doing something. Um, why I think this will be better than, or why I think this will solve a different set of problems, is because I think that we oftentimes get focused as developers on the actual planning too much, or not through any effort of our own, but we get involved in that, and then we become responsible for understanding where projects are, how much progress is being made. Tracking and viewing that visibility is very difficult. At least allowing the developers to break down the tasks into components that they can handle and term in technical details does allow the developers to be a little bit more accurate. And also, if there's changes that happen because we didn't foresee something, or we don't have to go and say, oh well, can we have another story or whatever. We can actually make that decision as to, is this small enough that we can just attach it as a task. And yeah, that causes churn. It can still be discussed, but the need to do something, but it can also be visible that it was added against a requirement, because to meet this requirement you have to do it, and that discussion can be tracked. And this way, developers do not need to focus on anything but the work that they need to focus on, and the rest of the stuff, the business side of things, can be the business side of things. So everything here tells me that adding a project, right, should result in, I think we might need some loading screens. Adding a new project here should result in the correct thing. Oh, we didn't test that since the new one. Okay, I guess what we're doing now is making a code. We didn't make any code changes there because it's all data. We are going to go and make a UI change. Um, Everything's moved to dialogues now, so it's still, that's telling me that that is a leftover, but that's interesting that clicking in it does that. Let's go create a dialogue. But anyway, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions, you want to ask about this software, there is a Discord linked in the cards below as well. You're more than welcome to start any discussions there. And also, if you have your own projects you want to talk about or ask questions about, there's a Discord. It does not have to be about what I do. Orient, orient, orient. Modules, settings, views, user, projects, components, add project. So this needs to become, we need a new component. He says with confidence, as it's not probably. Modules, features. Yeah, we do make it a dialogue. Okay. Modules, settings, views, projects, components. Uh, Add, edit, project, dialog. Skip tests. Imagine having the bandwidth to actually say, to remove that skip tests and actually say, okay, I'm going to do some tests on this thing. The dream, the dream. Okay, so go copy some. Let's go copy some necessary components. This and this. This is going to be project. That's that. And then this. Open dialog. Okay. I think I hit shift and did that. This is going to be a project. I appreciate you including it every time, but it's still frustrating. And then we're going to end up with remove them. Let's import some fields. With edit project, new project. We don't have the concept of edit project, so this is a little bit silly to do this way. However, I do not want to mess around. This is something, this is a pattern that I've clearly got in place. So doing some of these things is not the end of the world. We need a form group. Store form group. Okay. Copy. Actually, we can't. We can copy. Copy this. And this is save item. Good morning, Mars. How you doing? And we need a store. That's going to be necessary. Project store. Read only. And we have name and prefix. Do I do that on an nginx? Oh, I do it. Yeah, I do. Okay, that is my way. Can I get it right first time? Yes, I did. I always start with extends. There's our form setup. Item dialog visible. It's false. Name. 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 What about prefix in a second? Why are you still erring on init? Okay, prefix. Nothing special, but max length 4. Okay, so there we go. So let's go back here. Div class equals field. Got to drive through to order trampoline this morning. Storm means trampolines everywhere. That's not good. Um, Prefix. Uh, Still not sure about this. The prefix. I'm going to keep it in place because there's some extra things. Like one of the things that this lacks so far is kind of identifiers to use. Like if you were doing a PR, or do you do a branch, right? Do you do a branch for the requirement? Probably not. Do you do a branch for the task? That might be making it a little bit too big. So how do we tie a task back to a GitHub commit? So there's some things there that I haven't really figured quite out yet, but would like to. Okay, so our dialogue is almost there. So projects list. Where's our add button? Our add button has to be here. So if we have add edit project dialog. Add project. Let's just call it dialog. Open dialog. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. A project. I need to change some wording there. Something looks wrong with the space in there. Sally, hello, how you doing? Let's just go with that. Okay, add project. So on save, we do that. That's fine. We haven't got the edit in there yet, so it's fine. We don't need to worry about that right this second. Clear some space up. Clear some space. Add a new project. What's this going to be called? This is going to be called Control Tower CT. That actually work? No. 403. Forbidden. You are forbidden. Why am I forbidden from doing that? Why? Tenant administrator. Oh. Oh. Okay. Here's what we do. This is probably not best to be doing on development, but these are solid changes. I don't branching and making new PRs for every single change here, yes, is the right way to do this. But also I'm kind of tightening the system up a little bit here. These are things that I cannot avoid. They do move the system forward. I'm trying not to justify poor development practice, but it is poor development practice what I'm doing. But in the same way, I'm just trying to make sure I make progress and I don't sit here on stream doing all the administrative stuff because that won't be very entertaining either. At least I'm doing code. You see the code. This is one of the problems when you're doing development. Like, I'm not doing a tutorial, but I'm doing it to demonstrate the development, right? Not to do anything else there. So, okay. So that can go away now. We've got our imports there. It's standalone by default, so that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's interesting that that didn't update until I got there. But anyway. Oh, okay. So the settings module now needs to get that removed. That's fine. That's fine. It's all fine. You can probably go as well. You're not necessary. That's fine because I shut the server down. Anyway, what I was going to do is on post, we want to do something like a permission, right? So the problem with permissions right this second, permissions is kind of a influx thing where we've got this data is kind of stored in 3 different places and it's necessary in 3 different places. We learned this the other day. So what we did was when you sign up for the system, everything in this table, everything in this table gets added to the initial user. So whatever permissions in here is automatically in the initial user. So we've still got to talk about roles, etc., whether roles exist as a system concept or the users can configure their own roles, etc. Maybe that's a possibility. But ultimately, this isn't good enough because this is just a blind give them everything, right? Which for your first system user, you would have everything. But yeah, so whatever I add to one of these tables, I need to add to the other 2 tables because there's also one on the view. And technically, they have different perspectives, right? So the permissions here does not need this because it doesn't actually use these. It uses this and this to display a list and you can then select them, right? So this is actually only used for kind of system. So it doesn't really need to be in here. This one over here in identity, you notice is the same table, right? This needs this, but doesn't need this because it never describes them, right? So there's different aspects. And then the tenant management database, that right now just needs identifier because that's all we care about, right? When you create a new tenant, you get all the IDs. It's not ideal. There probably should be a seed that publishes these out to Kafka, or does something else, or there's a service that we can call that receives all the current identifiers and populates these. I don't quite know what that looks like right this second. But different systems need different aspects of the same data. So I'm going to create a new record. We're going to generate a GUID. This is going to be projects, planning, project, create project. They added. Now, save that. We can then go and take this data and we can go and add that over here. So we can add a row here. There's our permission there. I've got a little bit more maintenance to do before this is fully done, and then we can add another row there and then there. So now we've got that. Okay. What I need to do now is take this, go to scripts. So I am very bad at doing this. So if you were to be a developer that was working on this project right now, the only way of getting the system up and running is if all this data exists. So what I do is I provide the default data, right, straight out of the box so that we have those things. So what we need to do now is go to tenant management, go to identity permissions, and then need to copy this, paste this, and then everything past there to here. Get start treatment. So we comment at that, 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 that. And then we can take that and put that in the view as well. So is it ideal? No, absolutely not. When the system goes live for the first time, a lot of this has to change. So we need a lot of this kind of prepared and thought out. But right this second, where permissions is sourced from, who owns permissions, is kind of a little bit up in the air. So that's one of the things we need to solidify and deal with. So anyway, this can now change. So this is planning project create, right? That's what we call the permission, right? That's just a minor, right? Right. So we should be able to run the application up now. Planning project create is there. Our user is not going to have that permission. So we're going to have to go and add that permission first because administrator, it's going to be a long day. I'm sorry to hear that. I wish I could say I didn't feel the same, but yes. Okay, so we go to project. We go to, well, let's go to users first. So we need to select Jeffrey, right? Now you see create projects is not selected there. So we need Jeffrey to have those two abilities. Oh, we got 500 on that one. Need to figure that out. There's some problem with calling this multiple times, but either way, it held. So if we go back to users, click on Jeffrey. That fail again. Why do I have? Oh, okay, that held. Okay, that one doesn't really matter, but create projects does. So now if we go back to projects and we try and add a project, so that should have permeated to this point, right? So, what date is it? 4th. Yeah. So that those permissions are there now, right? So we should have the ability to create this project. Control tower, CT, still failed. Enough. Enjoy your day. Thanks for the stream. Apex, thank you very much. Take care. Have a great day. So here's what I think is happening and why I'm opening a tool. When you update permissions on a user, that token is saved, right? When you make a request, the token is saved through, because I don't want to have to keep hitting the database asking what's my permissions, what's my permissions. So eventually this record's going to expire. This is set to 5 minutes. So my bet is if I take this token out, if I take this token out and look at it in jwt.io, see it doesn't have project in there because we haven't cached that one yet, right? So it's got a minute left. So let's just delete that permission. Now let's try and make a request of any form, right? Once we make a request, that token should be refilled in there. Now this token should, unless I'm wrong, have planning project create. So now we can create the project. So what needs to happen there is when the gateway needs to know that the token has expired because we've expired it because we've changed permissions on a user. That's what would that be? So we just need something to expire the Redis cache for that user. Because Redis stores it as permissions, tenant, user ID. Right. So yeah. So now we should be able to go back to here, add another project, control tower, CT. Oh, come on, you're having a laugh. Did I name it incorrectly? Planning project create. Right? Add permissions in my user. Planning project create. Oh, it's not a role. Permissions. Okay. Try that once more. Control tower. CT. So we did get back an ID, and that's control tower. Okay, it added it in. There we go. So now we go check the table, because this is all we wanted to do initially, was to check the organization management. So tenant management is organization of who can log into your tenant, what sort of permissions they have, what sort of permissions they have, etc. You're managing the tenant overall. Organization management is managing the data that helps support the organization, such as projects, such as teams. Teams is still up in as to whether that's a component unto itself in terms of its behaviors. But organization management, configuring the data and configuring the behavior of the organization as a whole within the software. So there's a slight difference between tenant and organization. But there's our control tower, and you see the tenant identifier populated and the identifier populated. So we're going to put that down to some weird early bug, because that's been there since January. But now we should be able to change things on this one and have the correct changes assigned. We need to put loading spin on as well, by the way. Where are we looking? Here we go. I'm gonna go over here. Okay, so planning items updated 9 seconds ago. What we want to see is changes published shortly. Nothing's instantaneous, right? There's always going to be some delay. The more hops I put in between these things, the more delays there could be. There you go, 5 seconds. It calculated changes, so it's about, you know, why are you counting real time now? I'll suggest that this is going to change quickly. So yeah, 18 seconds ago. So that's about 10. That took about 10 seconds, the detail. So this published about 10 seconds later, this published, and we now have a change detail record that looks like that. That still looks wrong. Why do you look wrong still? You should be dealing with the right data now. MongoDB, pipelines, collections, projects, identifier. Ah, this doesn't have a tenant identifier in it. Hello, buddy. Hello. Hello. You come and say hello? Okay. It looks like I'm just tickling fingers because your little your little head doesn't show up on camera. I know. I know. Hello, bud. Hello. Hello, pup. Okay. Hello, my friend. Oh, you cannot climb up on me. Okay. Okay. Anyway. Hello, buddy. Hello. Hello. Okay, so apart from Loki climbing all over me, um looks like I might still have a little bit of work to figure out on the calculation of the projects, because it's clearly not, it's not evaluating the project list properly, because this should have said, or this should have been clearer about, we had nothing before, now we have next UI, but we should have had, we know from a fact that we had, it didn't move that back down there, yeah. Right? We know for a fact this changes control tower and next UI in it. So either my identifiers don't align, and that's a problem, which is actually possible, I suppose. But I exported these again, right, after I did it. So, yeah. Either way, it's going to be possible to fix that now, which is what it wasn't before. So there was some problems in there. So we looked at permissions, we looked at tasks, we looked at ETL stuff, which was good. We got some extra pieces tightened up here. These are little bugs that would, if you don't pay attention to them, if you don't test your system and go through routinely and validate, is this a defect because of development or is it a defect genuinely? You've got to know how to validate that, and just, you can't write it off, right? I can't say, it's probably due to development data. Right. Going through this the other day, trying to get the permissions enabled to start with, that was quite fascinating, because it meant that I hadn't gone through the startup of a tenant for a long time, and that caused some issues. So, yeah. What have you done to my headphones, dog? Constantly beeping in my ear. Ah, where's the other one gone, dog? You best not be chewing it. That's why it's beeping in my ear, because it's somewhere I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to have to call it there, because I have work I must do. I will return tomorrow with hopefully a little better idea of what comes next on this, because there's a few things that we can focus on. There's a few extra pieces that need to be tightened up, but also, um, you know, oh, I did forget to show the tasks now do show. He says as he can't find one. The tasks do show effectively here, and when I add a new task, testing task, this should show immediately. This won't work, will it? Because I just stopped everything running. No, okay. It should update there immediately now. So that I did get working. So this is now a useful piece. Obviously, there's some things there like the view, making that work better, etc. So you can see what you're actually looking at. But it does move that forward. But yeah, we continue to go through the list, trying to make this a more useful product all around. And yeah. So who. Um, well, and thank you very much. I today felt like a productive day. It felt like we got some good solid changes made. Um, yeah. Um, let's go raid Clayman today if Clayman's still up and running. Oh, I'll be right back. Coffee. Tell you what, to Clayman. Clayman's game looks awesome. It's a 1,000-person crazy Twitch stream thing. I'll be back tomorrow with more of this. I'll try and tighten up a lot of this and have some focus for tomorrow's stream. But yeah, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions, you're more than welcome to join the Discord. There are links in the cards below. It's Tuesday, so, and also don't forget to go to follow One Line. One Line also streams .NET development and is awesome. Let's go raid Clayman. Take care. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.